Chapter 22 of Devotional Hours with the Bible, Volume 1, by J.R. Miller. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Mary Ann. Chapter 22. Joseph and his Father. Read Genesis chapter 48. Every side of Joseph's character is beautiful. Everywhere we see him he bears himself nobly. His childhood was winning. It was a sore test to which he was subjected when he began to endure wrongs. But here the splendor of his spirit shone out in even brighter light than in his childhood. When he was a slave, the manhood in him was free and unshackled. In the hour of temptation, his soul remained untarnished. When he was cast into prison, falsely accused, hurled into chains and a dungeon, he was not yet crushed. Instead of letting the darkness into his soul to darken his eyes, the light that was in him shone out and filled his prison with brightness, overcoming the gloom. Instead of yielding to discouragement and despair, he became a comforter of others. He filled the dungeon with the fragrance of love. Then at one bound he passed from the darkness and the chains of the cruel imprisonment almost to the throne of Egypt. Many men who bear adversity well fail in prosperity. Many a spirit that shines radiantly in trial fades out in the fierce light of human honor and joy. But the promotion of Joseph dimmed no line of the beauty of his soul. He went as quietly to the great tasks of government as ever he had gone to the lowliest duties when a slave. Again the experience changed. His brothers stood before him, the brothers who had sold him as a slave. This was a sore trial of his character, but he was equal to the testing. One of the most beautiful scenes in all history is Joseph forgiving his brothers. We pass now to still another chapter in the life of Joseph, and here too we shall find the beauty unsullied, the splendor undimmed. We look at Joseph and his father, and we see that through all the experiences of his life he kept his love for his father warm and tender. There's one incident which at first thought seems to have shown forgetfulness of his old home. When his first son was born, he named him Manasseh. For God, he said, hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. But he did not mean that the coming of this child into his home blotted out all memory of his father and his father's house. The words reveal the heart hunger of Joseph for home, love, and domestic ties. He had been torn away from these, and for 13 years and more had lived unblessed by human affection. Now the hunger of his heart was met by the child he held in his arms. He had now a home of his own, and in the new joy, the years of hungry, unmet love were forgotten, as the earth forgets the desolation of winter when springtime comes with its glory of bursting life and bloom and foliage. But his father was not forgotten, even in the gladness of his own happy home. All through the story of the brothers' visits we have glimpses of Joseph's love for his father. As he pressed on them the charge that they were spies, testing them, learning what was in them, they dropped the words, "Thy servants are sons of one man. The youngest is this day with our father." They spoke carelessly, as to a stranger who knew nothing of their home, but their words told Joseph that his father was yet alive, sending a thrill of gladness into his heart. The brothers went home again, and when they stood before the governor, almost his first word to them was the inquiry, "Is your father well, the old man of whom ye spake?" The brothers saw nothing in the words but the fine courtesy of a noble gentleman, yet under the courtesy there throbbed a tender filial love. When Judah presented his plea for Benjamin, referring again and again to his father at home, his old age, his loneliness, his bereavement, his love for Benjamin, so deep and tender that he would die if the lad were not returned to him, he knew little what chords he was touching in the soul of the great man to whom he was speaking. It was this picture of the aged, sorrowing father that most of all moved Joseph as he listened to Judah's words. When the plea was ended, Joseph broke down, could not refrain himself longer, and said amid sobs, "I am Joseph." Then the very next words were, "Doth my father yet live?" A few minutes later, after the passionate assurance of forgiveness had been given to quiet the hearts of his brothers in their consternation, he bade them hasten to their father. "My father," he says now, "and say unto him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not. Ye shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that ye have seen, and ye shall haste and bring down my father hither." Weeks must have passed while the caravan slowly wended its way to Canaan, and while preparations for breaking up the old home and for moving were progressing, and while the family journeyed again to Egypt. At last, however, word came to Joseph that his father was approaching, and he made ready his chariot and went to meet him. Who can tell the tenderness of that meeting? The Bible never indulges in sentimental narration, and yet the picture its words present is very touching. Joseph presented himself unto him, and he fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. It had been 22 years since Joseph, a lad of 17, had gone away from the home door to carry messages and tokens to his brothers, expecting in a few days to return. He had never seen his father's face since that morning, and the pent-up love of all the years found expression in his greeting. Sometimes young men who have risen from a lowly origin to places of honor have not cared to acknowledge the members of their own family in the presence of the distinguished friends who stood about them in their new rank. But here, too, the character of Joseph shines in brilliant splendor. The court of Pharaoh was a place of great splendor. Jacob was a plain shepherd, lowly, unconventional in manners, without worldly rank or honor, withered, limping, famine-driven. Far apart in condition were these two men, the governor of Egypt and the patriarch of Canaan, but the love of Joseph's heart for his father was so strong and so loyal that he never thought of the difference, and he led the old shepherd into the presence of the great king with pride. He told Pharaoh of the coming of his father as eagerly as if Jacob too had been a king. He made provision for his father, also in Egypt, and nourished him as long as the old man lived. When Jacob was dying, Joseph stood watching by his bedside, the prime minister of Egypt by the old shepherd with beautiful filial devotion. When Jacob was dead, Joseph fell upon his face and wept upon him and kissed him. Then followed a funeral like that of a king. All this reveals the nobleness of Joseph's character. The lesson is plain. Children should honor their parents. Nothing more sadly mars the beauty of a life than anything which shows want of filial love and respect. Children never come to an age while their parents live when they may cease to treat them with affection and honor in return for their unselfish devotion, self-denial, and care for them in the days of infancy and childhood. These are debts we never can repay save by love that stops at no cost or sacrifice, nor flags in its faithfulness until we have laid away the revered forms to rest in the grave. Children who rise from lowly homes to wealth, honor, and distinction should never dishonor the parents they have left in the obscurity of the common walks. There have been children who have grown distinguished in the world, and then been ashamed of the old-fashioned father and mother to whom they owed all that gave them power to rise among men. There have been fathers and mothers who, old, poor, broken, and broken-hearted, have not been welcome to the splendid mansions of their children for whom they had toiled, suffered, and sacrificed without stint, without complaining, in the time of their infancy and early years. They did not know that their unfilial treatment of their own father and mother left upon them a dishonor far deeper than any little social stigma their acknowledgment of them before their friends could have occasioned. If we are blessed with wealth or with plenty, they should share it who shared their all with us in days gone by, perhaps pinched themselves that we might not want, or that we might be better fitted for life. If we have risen to higher position and greater honor than our parents had, we should bring them into the sunshine that is ours, that the benediction of our favored life may brighten and sweeten their old age. If they are a little peculiar or odd in their ways, lacking some of the refinements of our more fashionable life, we should remember that these are only outside disfigurements, and that beneath them beat hearts of love and dwell spirits that are noble with the nobleness of Christ-likeness. There is another part of the story of Joseph and his father which has its revealings and its lessons. We turn back to Hebron, to the time when the brothers came from Egypt after Joseph had made himself known to them. They told their father that Joseph was alive and that he was governor of Egypt, but the old man could not believe the tidings. His heart was overwhelmed. For more than 20 years he had mourned Joseph as dead. Now to hear that he was alive in Egypt was too much for the old father. His heart fainted, for he believed them not. His sons sought to make him believe what they had told him. They repeated to him the words of Joseph. While he still listened, bewildered, doubting, full of conflicting emotions, the wagons Joseph had sent to carry him to Egypt were driven to the door. Then the asses bearing the provisions and the good things of Egypt also appeared. Now Jacob was convinced. His spirit revived, and Israel said, "It is enough. Joseph my son is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die." The wagons came and took Jacob away from that land of hunger, with its mere handfuls of the good things of the land of plenty, and bore him right into the heart of the country where his son ruled. He was met on the borders of Egypt by the son who had died to him, but still lived. He was welcomed by him with love's warmest welcome. He was presented to the king, who bade him dwell in the best of the land. There he stayed, close to his son, nourished by him. No longer did he have merely a few of the good things, sent from far away as tokens of the abundance in store yonder. He dwelt now in the very midst of the storehouses, and had all that he could wish. We see how beautiful a parable this story makes in its application to Christ's believing ones in this world. Here our joy is very sweet, but we have only little foretastes of the heavenly good things. By and by the wagons will come for us and take us into the very presence of Christ. That is what death is, God's chariot swinging low, to carry home the loved saint. When Jacob got into the royal carriage and it drove away, he was sad. He was leaving his old walks and the place of his sorrows, but he was going to his son. He was leaving famine and want, and was going to a land of plenty. That is what dying is to the Christian. We shall leave the place of toil and care to find rest. We shall leave the land of tears and separations to go into the presence of the loved and lost, when the night is gone, and with the morn those angel faces smile which I have loved long since and lost a while. The wagons of heaven have been at our doors already, and have taken some of ours home. Some day they will come for us, and we will go away from this earth where the famine is, and where we cannot see our Savior. But it will not be a sad day to us, if we are Christ's by faith. The wagons will take us to the land where our Savior lives in glory and reigns over all. He will meet us on the edge of that blessed country and conduct us home. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me, and may there be no mourning of the bar, when I put out to sea, but such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bourne of time and place the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. He will meet us on the borders of the land of blessedness. He will welcome us with tenderest love. He will present us to his Father, not ashamed to own us as his friends, his brothers, his sisters, before all heaven's angels. He will give us a place near himself, close to the center of heaven's glory. There he will nourish us with heaven's choicest fruits, and we shall go no more out forever. End of chapter 22.